You know, the Jeffrey Epstein story, it's been this dark cloud hanging over the world for years now. And just when you think you've heard it all, boom, a massive new drop of court documents just peeled back a whole new shocking layer. So let's dive into what the world just learned.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It all starts here, a 7-story house in New York City. We're talking about the single biggest private home in all of Manhattan, right on the super exclusive East 71st Street. But this place, it wasn't just a house. No, it was the nerve center of a truly terrifying operation and a go-to spot for some of the most powerful people on the planet.
And if you stepped inside, well, it was just as disturbing as you can imagine. The whole vibe was like something out of a horror movie. Get this, dozens of fake eyeballs staring at you right at the entrance. A sculpture of a bride just hanging from the ceiling. A taxidermy tiger in the office, right next to a first edition of the novel Lolita. And just everywhere, I mean everywhere, there were pictures of Epstein shaking hands with the global elite. We're talking presidents, princes, even popes. It was a constant, in-your-face reminder of just how connected this guy was.
So that's the big question, right? What in the world was actually happening behind those walls? We now know it was so much more than just trafficking. The new files point to something way more sophisticated, like a business model built entirely on power, access, and of course, secrets.
Right, so let's talk about the method. For years, investigators and victims have been saying the same thing. Epstein wasn't just a predator. He was running a full-blown blackmail business. And these new documents? Well, they add a ton of weight to that theory.
So how did he do it? How did it all work? Well, according to one victim, Maria Farmer, Epstein had this media room, and in it were monitors showing live feeds from hidden cameras. Cameras placed in every single bedroom and bathroom in the house. This wasn't for security, you guys. This was constant, 24/7 surveillance of his powerful guests.
The whole alleged operation was disturbingly simple. Just 3 steps. First, you lure powerful people to your properties. Second, you secretly film them doing illegal or compromising things. And third, you leverage it. When the FBI finally raided his mansion, they found exactly what they were looking for: a hidden safe, and inside, stacks of CDs. Each one was meticulously labeled with a name. That was his currency. That was his blackmail empire.
And the scale of what we're talking about here, it's just staggering. 3.5 million. That's how many pages of files the US Justice Department just released. It's a total avalanche of information. So the real question is, what's actually in these new documents? What do they reveal?
All right, this is where it gets really wild. The newly unsealed files, they do 2 things. They confirm a lot of old suspicions, but they also drop some brand new bombshells, and they implicate some of the most famous and powerful people on the entire planet.
I mean, the list of names is just a who's who of the global elite. You've got Prince Andrew, mentioned multiple times, Bill Gates, who, by the way, met with Epstein repeatedly after his 2008 conviction, the co-founder of Google, Sergey Brin, was seen on Epstein's island, and the emails. Wow, the emails are just damning. Richard Branson invited Epstein to his island, and he literally asked him to, quote, bring your harem. Even the wellness guru Deepak Chopra sent an email saying, bring your girls. It's unbelievable.
You know, for years, people have been speculating like crazy about who else might be named. And one of the biggest names pointing fingers was Elon Musk. He tweeted that Donald Trump was in the files, and that was the real reason they were being kept secret.
But then, in a moment of just incredible irony, the new files dropped. And guess what? They revealed Musk's own emails to Epstein. In one of them, he's asking about visiting the island, and he wants to know, quote, what day/night will be the wildest party. It's just a perfect example of how this whole scandal just seems to turn on everyone it touches.
But, you know, the revelations didn't stop in America or Europe, not even close. For the very first time, these files have opened up a brand new chapter, detailing a really significant and frankly surprising connection to some very powerful figures in India.
So a documented relationship pops up between the Indian industrialist Anil Ambani and Jeffrey Epstein. The communications show Ambani asking Epstein for, and I quote, guidance on dealing with the White House. But here's what's really striking. He actually visited Epstein's mansion on the exact day that India's general election results were being announced.
And this is probably the most politically explosive detail to come out of those communications. In messages between Epstein and Steve Bannon, who was Trump's strategist, Anil Ambani was apparently referred to as Prime Minister Narendra Modi's guy. The implication, of course, is that he was acting as some kind of unofficial emissary.
Another big name that came up is Hardeep Singh Puri, who is currently a minister in the Indian government.
The files document at least 3 meetings he had at Epstein's home. Now, for his part, Purias said that yes, these meetings happened, but they were before he became a minister, back when he was working for an international institute.
And then you have this absolutely sensational, and let's be clear, completely unverified claim from Epstein himself. In an email, he actually boasted that Prime Minister Modi's historic visit to Israel was based on his advice, and he wrote in all caps, "It worked." He's basically implying he was pulling the strings of Indian foreign policy at the very highest level.
Now, as you can imagine, the Indian government has forcefully rejected all of this. The Ministry of External Affairs came out and called these claims, quote, trashy ruminations by a convicted criminal which deserve to be dismissed with the utmost contempt. So, a very strong denial.
So, we've got all these new details, right? You'd think the story would start to make more sense. But honestly, in a lot of ways, it's just getting more mysterious. It feels like we're left with more questions than answers.
And here's a big reason why. The Department of Justice says there are nearly 6 million documents related to this case in total. We've only seen about 3.5 million of them. If you do the math, that means a staggering 40% of the files are still being kept from the public. And you just have to ask, what could possibly be in those files?
And this just leaves us with these huge, nagging questions. I mean, in a scandal that spans the entire globe, how is it possible that Ghislaine Maxwell is the only major accomplice who's been jailed? And then you have the deaths. Epstein's death was officially ruled a suicide. His close associate, Jean-Luc Brunel, also allegedly committed suicide in jail. The pattern here is, well, to say it's suspicious is an understatement.
All of which leads us to the one ultimate chilling question that just hangs over this entire affair. Did Jeffrey Epstein really take his own life? Or was he silenced? Silenced to protect the powerful presidents, princes, and billionaires whose secrets he held. That is the mystery that remains at the dark heart of this whole story.